morning, everyone. My name is Avan Guerra. I work with the UTRGV Center for Sustainable Agricultural and Rural Advancement, or SARA, as a program coordinator. Here at SARA, our team of diverse individuals collaborates together with community outreach programs, student education, and rural development to help minority farmers and ranchers improve their overall success on topics such as this one today. Well, I'd like to thank you for joining us for today's presentation titled Forage Production in South Texas. I myself have been involved in hay production for at least 10 years, and I'm happy to present this material to you today. Just as a reminder, we'll have questions at the end of the presentation, and my information will also be available on the chat. So let's get started. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Avan Guerra. I currently work for the Center for Sustainable Agricultural and Rural Advancement, known as SARA. I've been involved in forage production for over 10 years in the Rio Grande Valley. My presentation today will include information to help you understand the forage production process. This is a question that I get asked often by new producers that have either acquired some land or want to start producing their own hay for their livestock. What types of hay could they plant in their fields or ranches? These are the varieties that are commonly planted here in South Texas. We have improved hybrid grasses, we have Sudan cross sorghums, and we have alfalfa. As you can see in this slide here, on the top left, you'll see a picture of a field of alfalfa. On the top right, you'll see a picture of Bermuda hybrid. And then on the very bottom, you'll see that the Sudan cross sorghum. It's also known as hay grazer. A lot of people refer to it as Sudan hay, others as hay grazer, but it's basically a Sudan cross type of hay. We have here a picture of a Bermuda grass, and there's several varieties of improved Bermuda grasses that are grown in this area. These are the most common that the producers plant in this area. We got Tifton 85, we have NK37, Jigs Bermuda, and Coastal Bermuda. One thing to always remember is that each different variety has its characteristics. For example, Tifton 85, sometimes it's a little bit steamier. It has good yields. It's a desired variety for individuals who have cattle. They really like it. It's got a good protein content. The NK37, it's known to be a finer grass. Individuals that have horses really like that variety. The Jigs Bermuda as well. It's a thinner grass, desired as well by individuals that have horses. And the Coastal Bermuda also, it's desired by individuals that have horses. So those are the four varieties that you'll come across in the area. Another thing is that NK37 is the only one that I know that you can purchase seed and plant it with an actual seed. The rest are going to be either sprigs or tops. Varieties of Sudan or hay grazers. These are varieties that are common to this area again. We have the red top cane, the Sudan grass, we have the sorghum Sudan cross grass, and then we have the sweet sorghum crosses. And another question that is very common is, well, which is the best variety? Which brand or what seed company has the best Sudan hay grazer available? And the answer that I give to a lot of these individuals is that go to your local feed store and just ask what type of variety of Sudan or hay grazer do y'all sell? And usually they'll let you know. They say, well, the producers usually like this variety because it grows well in this temperature, and that's usually what the way I got started. I started experimenting on my own, and then I went up to a local feed store and I said, well, what are people planting? What varieties? And the seed rep will usually help you. Well, if you have, for example, irrigated land, this is a good variety. If you have a dry land operation, well, this is a good variety for you. So that's something to consider, when you're choosing a variety of a Sudan or hay grazer. Land preparation for grass and alfalfa. Site preparation is very important when establishing forages. Land that is planted in grass is usually laser leveled. A level field will usually be more efficient to irrigate and will provide a better yield. There is individuals that have hilly land and have planted Bermuda or have Bermuda established, but they have other methods of irrigating grounds that are hard to irrigate with a flood system. So just keep in mind that to what type of irrigation system is available to you and consider that when planting your Bermuda hay fields. Land preparation for hay grazer. Land must be well managed and tilled in order to have a desirable yield. Typically, the land will be chiseled, plowed, disked prior to planting. And that's very important. I've had clients in the past that have just ran a disc and lightly moved the soil and then planted a hay grazer or Sudan and didn't have good results. And that has to do with sometimes the soil's been compacted with the livestock being in that area for a while. So you're not going to have a very good yield if you don't go in there and really work the soil prior to planting. Here are some pictures, of some equipment that is recommended prior to planting. And these practices include chiseling. The picture here to your left, the tractor is pulling an implement, and that would be the chisel. It goes in about 18 inches to 24 inches, and it breaks the soil so that the roots have a good loose soil to get established. The next picture here to your right is a plow. You can also plow the field. It also really does prepare the soil and make that the soil real loose, and you have a better results when planting a Sudan or a hay grazer. These are types of planters when you're gonna plant your Sudan or hay grazer. The first picture here to your left is a drill planter. That is really the most popular planter that is used to plant a hay grazer. You get a better yields because of course you're putting down more seed. You put about 30 pounds per acre, and you have a thinner stem and a more desirable type of hay that is produced. That middle picture here is it's a 6-row planter. That is a more desired way to plant in fields that are dry. You don't have access to irrigation. It gives you a better spread of the plants, and you more or less try to calibrate your planter between 10 to 15 pounds per acre. Of course, you're not going to get as high yields as with a drill, but you can get away with planting this method in farmland that is dry. The picture to your far right is going to be a broadcast planter, and those are usually cone shaped, and that's the most economical way to plant a hay grazer or a Sudan. You can find one of those planters at any farm store, and you calibrate to 30 to 50 pounds per acre, and you can use a small tractor. Once you plant it, you can run a small disc over it, and you're set. Tops and sprigs. This is terms that are used when you're going to establish a Bermuda hayfield. Tops are the stem or runner that is above the root and is usually 6 weeks old and can be between 18 to 24 inches long. Sprigs are typically 3 to 4 inches long and contain numerous nodes and roots. And the difference is that on the top picture you can see here, this is a hayfield that was cut and it's going to be utilized to plant in a new field. So you run your mower conditioner through this field, you cut it and you bale it, and you go and throw the tops on the in the field. The bottom picture here is a sprig. Actually, that is the root. You have a certain piece of equipment that pulls out the root from the Bermuda, and that is taken in a trailer, and certain piece of equipment is used to plant that. Here in this picture here, as you had seen in the previous slide, I had shown to you that field that had been cut green. It was baled, and you can see here on the top picture to your left, there's a trailer with bales. Those bales are being planted on a new hayfield that is being established of Jigs Bermuda grass. So you can see here uh, the producer and his worker here. They're spreading out the bales. Uh, if you look at the picture on the bottom left, uh, that's usually the pattern you want to get. You want to throw between 12 to 20 square bales per acre. Once that is done, you can run a a tractor with a disc, as you can see on the far right to the bottom. Once you spread all that hay out, and it's green, it's you usually want to cut it a day before, and water it down. Once you bale it, water it down on the trailer. Throw a lot of water, get it real moist, the bales, and then it'll last 24 hours or so by the time you plant it in the ground. And you just run a tractor with a disc over it. And in this particular situation, the client went ahead and planted this, and the next day he got an inch of rain. So he didn't have to irrigate initially. Till about a week later, he went ahead and watered the place again. But he got really lucky with that rain. He was able to get some real good moisture the following day. Equipment for hay baling. This is a list of the equipment that you'll need if you want to do your own hay baling. You need a tractor, at least 100 horsepower, a mower conditioner, a square baler, a round baler, a tedder, and a rake. On this picture here, we have a mower conditioner. This farm implement, it crimps and crushes newly cut hay to promote faster and more even drying. Keep in mind they also have cutters that don't have the crimpers, but if you're gonna be doing a hay grazer, you need that cutter to be a conditioner because you need to break the stem to help uh, the drying period of that Sudan. If not, it'll take a while. If you don't crush it, it won't dry evenly, and you have mold issues and other things that can go wrong with it. So just keep in mind if you're gonna just be doing a Bermuda grass, you can get away with just a regular cutter, uh, but that's something to consider. A rake, um, it's basically used to collect the hay into windrows for hay baling. And there's different styles, different brands. There's the 3 point, there's a drag type. But the main goal is to make your windrows with that equipment, and it promotes that you don't have to go in so many turns. You can combine 3 rows if you don't have a lot of forage in that one particular windrow. You can combine 2 or 3 and make the hay baling process faster. A square baler, it's an implement used to compress and cut raked crop into compact bales that are easy to handle, transport, and store. And I get this question asked a lot. Well, what is the best brand or make of baler? And I usually tell everyone that asks me that I go with whoever is closer for parts. And in this case, this particular brand, there's a dealership 10 miles away, and they usually have all the parts in stock, and they have a good service. So any brand is good, but just keep in mind that you don't want to drive 100 miles to go buy string or a part. Uh, always consider that you want a good service and parts available close by. So that's why I go with this particular brand. The round baler. This farm implement picks up hay from the ground and feeds it into a belt chamber where it is wrapped by hydraulic pressure from belts, then released. And there's several models. There's a 4x5. There's a 5x5, a 5x6, and I'm talking about the width and the height. There's several different models depending on your operation and what your goal is. If you want a bigger bale, where you're gonna go with a 5x6. If you just want a small bale because you don't have a big tractor to pick them up, well, you would probably go with a 4x5. Also, something to consider when you transport. I usually bale with a 4x5 because when you load on a trailer side by side, you have 8 feet wide, total length with the two bales, and most trailers are 8 feet wide. So keep in mind that those are things to consider as well. A tedder. This is a farm implement that has forks that ruffles and or aerates the hay, which speeds up the process of haymaking. And this particular implement is very handy this time of the year because uh, we don't have those heat elements anymore. We have 75, 85-degree temperatures. So if you're cutting hay this time of the year, it takes a while to dry. With this implement, you can go in there after you cut and just ruffle the hay all over. It'll spread it uniformly throughout the field, provide a thin sheet of hay all over the field, and provide a quicker drying period. And it's very handy at this time of the year. Forage production can be very rewarding. It not only can produce feed for your livestock, but may provide a supplemental income source for your farm. This completes my presentation today. We will be taking questions here shortly. Thanks again for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Avan, we do have
Hi.
a few questions for you.
Very good, very good. I'm ready.
Okay. Timothy Sandoval asked, do you have any experience with hay mixes, say alfalfa, Studex, planting Studex on 60-inch centers, or other mixes with multiple species?
Well, I've tried a couple of those. The only problem with those is that the market, especially down here in the valley, uh, you know, people seem to lean more toward the Bermuda grasses and the Sudan varieties. But going to that question, yeah, there is some mixes that you can do, especially in the fall. I know some individuals that are doing those different varieties that do well in the fall, and they don't own, they'll graze them or they'll bale them. But yes, they do well in this area. But it's just about the timing, because some of those are fall plants. The oats, especially, a lot of people do oats.
Okay. In your experience, Avan, what are the best methods to combat introduced invasive grasses like tanglehead and the blue stem that have no nutritional value to cattle?
All right. Well, to answer your question, any field any producer that I've worked with and that has any type of Guerra blue stem, the recommendation I do is for him is to establish it, put it again in a Bermuda if it's too far gone, because as of right now, the only selective herbicide that may work and it's still in trials is Pastora. And that one gives you a little bit of results of knocking back the blue stem. But the blue stem is a big challenge, all over the state of Texas. It's taking over hay fields. But just on a side note, what I've seen and then what I do in some of my Bermuda fields is that I try to keep the ditches and the perimeters of the field clean. I'll spray Roundup to help the seed from blowing in from those invasive grasses, and I'll keep them well fertilized in the spring, because if you have a well fertilized and healthy, if it's Tifton or just a common Bermuda or jigs or whatever, if it's well fertilized, it usually doesn't allow any other grasses to come in and take over. So yeah, but Pastora would be something to think about, and just look at the follow the label when you're going to apply it in your pasture.
Okay, great, thanks. What is the biggest cost item for your operation?
Well, everything is so expensive nowadays. The latest piece of equipment that I purchased was a mower conditioner, and that was about 30,000. But right now, I would say if you're gonna start off, a tractor, probably, if you don't have a tractor, that would be your most expensive, and land, of course. If you're thinking of starting off, from a totally new operation or new owner for land, that would be your most expensive investment is the land, and then second would be, of course, in a tractor, I guess, and then from there on you need all your other equipment. But in my experience, sometimes you might want to start with some used equipment till you get a little bit of momentum, and then you can start buying a new equipment.
Do you know, Avan, if having an operation, a hay or forage operation for commercial purposes to sell, is that does that make you eligible for USDA programs, like to participate in equip and loans and that kind of stuff?
Oh, yes, a good thing you brought that up, Aisha. Yeah, a lot of producers that I've worked with, that's the first thing that I recommend if their land is kind of slopey and they want to participate in a program, especially equip. I recommend that they laser level and then put their water valves, and that'll improve your overall production yield and of course make you profitable. So yes, yeah, that'll open the doors to those programs by all means. Loans as well, if you need a micro loan to purchase a new baler or whatever, you'll already be established.
Well, thank you so much. There are a few more other questions in the Q&A box, so please work on those when you get a chance.
Alrighty.